You're good to go.
All right. Well, good morning, gentlemen, and appreciate you guys taking your time today as we, I'll go ahead and put the camera on here. For those of you guys who don't know me, I'm Keith Shoemate. I'm the logistics director and safety director here at JCI. I work out of Lee Summit branch. Usually most of you guys I've interacted with in dealing with warehouse items and stuff, but took over as the safety manager to add to my duties at the first of the year. One thing that we've been working really hard on for well over a year, even from our side, is getting our DOT items in control and get understanding things, and what a challenge that has been. And with the regulations as they are, we found that it affects most of you, if not all of you, in one shape or form. So we just want to provide some training for you guys to mark any, give you the information that you need, and if any further information is needed, you know who your sources are to get a hold of us to get the answers. Again, appreciate you guys taking the time. I know you guys have busy schedules meeting the customer's needs, so doing this is important. But the main thing we want to do is just again, provide you guys with the information to know. Steffi's going to share a little bit here about several things, but especially as you're working for your customers or taking care of your customers, there's some times that there's situations that it's hard to find somebody to carry a load for you. We had a situation last year where we got dinged by DOT because one of our salesmen, jumped into a vehicle and unprepared with all the proper documentation, and it dinged us on our DOT reporting. So, just to have that information to know what you can do, what we can do, especially as we at JCI are growing significantly. This is just important that we work together to make sure that we're compliant. So at this time, I'm going to introduce and turn this over to Stephanie Booth. She joined us about a year and a half to help us get our department DOT stuff in shape, and she's done a fantastic job and has brought us a long way. And just look forward to everything that she continues to do for us. She's a good resource for us on our things DOT. So guys, this is a resource for you to use if you have questions, and more than happy to help. Stephanie, I'll turn it over to you.
Good morning, gentlemen. I know I've talked to several of you through email over the last year and a half, but we wanted to just bring you all together. All of you are considered commercial drivers because the truck you have been assigned is more than 10,001 GVWR. And we just want to make sure that we're giving you a proper introduction and what it means to be DOT compliant when you're out there. Another catalyst for this is in about 2 weeks, the Commercial Vehicle Safety Alliance and the Department of Transportation are partnering for the 2021 Road Check, which is a 3-day safety blitz where DOT agents will be out across the country bringing in more commercial vehicles for roadside inspections. The focus for this year's event is hours of service, but that doesn't mean they won't be checking for other things like a medical card, or that your truck is inspected and compliant and the vehicle maintenance is up to date. So we just wanted to kind of run through all of that with you. We have a slideshow that we're going to present to you guys, and then we're going to go over at the end of it how to use Keep Truckin' when you are going outside of the 150 air miles. You guys do have to log that time in an appropriate log format. So I'm going to go ahead and get started on this. It's an interactive video, so when we get to those slides, if you guys know the answers, please feel free to yell them out. There are some slides that we'll skip through because it doesn't apply to JCI, and I'll pause it a few times because this was made before September of last year. when some of the regulations were updated. So with that, I will get this started. And if you have any questions, please just feel free to interrupt.
Driver compliance.
Can everybody hear
Welcome
that?
to our training
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
on DOT driver compliance. This training covers some important U.S. Department of Transportation or DOT rules that all commercial motor vehicle CMV drivers are required to follow. These rules include the qualifications you must have as a driver, hours of service regulations, how to fill in your logbook correctly, requirements for inspections, safety equipment you need to have on board your truck, whistleblower protections, and some hazardous materials or hazmat issues. The purpose of all of these rules is to keep you and everyone else on the road safe. When you complete this training, you will be able to recall the documents and other requirements needed for a qualified driver, know the hours of service regulations, including the maximum daily and weekly driving times and the daily and weekly on-duty and off-duty time requirements, know how to correctly fill out a daily log sheet, know how to ensure that all required inspections are conducted when needed, recall important hazmat compliance issues, identify whistleblower protections for safety issue reporting, and know what a DOT auditor will look for during an inspection. You will also be able to recognize what is included in the Compliance Safety Accountability, or CSA, program. So what vehicles are regulated by DOT? The Federal Department of Transportation regulates interstate vehicles if their gross vehicle weight rating, GVWR, or their gross combined weight rating, GCWR, is more than 10,000 pounds.
I just want to really quick point out that a GVWR isn't the actual weight of the truck. It's what the truck is weighted to haul when you include passengers and driver and fuel and cargo.
Intrastate commercial motor vehicles are also subject to state DOT regulation if their GVWR or their GCWR is more than 26,000 pounds. Most states have adopted intrastate regulations that are identical or very similar to federal regulations. A driver involved exclusively in intrastate operations should contact the state agency handling commercial vehicle enforcement in the driver's home state with any questions. More information is available at the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration, FMCSA, website.
All right, and then really quick, another distinction for commercial motor vehicles from 10,001 to 26,000 GVWR don't require a CDL. However, if you live in the state of Missouri, you do have to have a Class E license in order to drive for work.
In order to meet compliance, DOT requires complete driver qualifications on file, compliance with hours of service, annual DOT inspections, daily vehicle inspections, and drug and alcohol testing. Let's look at each of these in turn. So, what documents are needed for a qualified driver? A qualified driver must possess a valid license for the class of vehicle and carry the required vehicle insurance and registration cards. In addition, you must provide a copy of your road test certificate and a statement of any driving violations to your employer. A qualified driver must submit to annual driving record checks and drug and alcohol tests. Your company may conduct an inquiry to your past employers, which dates back the last 3 years. Qualified drivers must possess a current medical exam certificate to prove they are in good health and physically able to perform all the duties of a driver. They need to know how to drive safely and safely load, block, brace, and secure cargo. Qualified drivers must be able to speak and read English well enough to converse with the public, understand traffic signs and signals, and be able to make legible entries in reports and records. Breaking the law can lead to disqualification. Examples of grounds for disqualification include conviction for transporting controlled substances, driving under the influence of drugs or alcohol, or leaving the scene of a commercial vehicle accident.
Also, the use of a commercial motor vehicle in a felonious act is immediately disqualifying.
The regulations for drivers are very specific about the amount of time you can spend traveling and on duty. DOT defines time in 3 categories: on-duty time, off-duty time, and travel time. Let's look at each of these categories in more detail. DOT defines on-duty time more broadly than you might think. On-duty time includes any time you spend driving, of course, but it also includes any time you spend waiting to be dispatched at a plant, terminal, facility, or other property of a motor carrier or shipper, inspecting, servicing, or conditioning any truck, including fueling it and washing it at any time, loading, unloading, supervising, or attending to your truck, handling paperwork for shipments, attending to your truck when broken down, providing a breath, saliva, or urine sample for drug or alcohol testing, including travel to and from the collection site, doing other work for a motor carrier, including giving or receiving training and driving a company car, doing paid work for anyone who is not a motor carrier, such as a part-time job for another employer, and riding in or on a commercial motor vehicle as outlined in FMCSA Section 397.5. Off-duty time refers to any time where you are relieved of all duty and responsibility for performing work, free to pursue activities of your own choosing, able to leave the place where your vehicle is parked, and not doing any work, whether paid or unpaid, for a motor carrier and not doing paid work for anyone else. Travel time is any time when you are being transported to a new location as part of your job and not performing any driving on the trip. Any work you do at the direction of your motor carrier is considered on-duty time. However, if you take at least 10 consecutive hours of off-duty time once you get to your destination, you may count all of the time, including the travel time, as off-duty. As an example, imagine that your company sends you cross-country on a bus in order to pick up a truck and drive it back to a facility. The bus trip requires 8 hours of travel time. During that time, you are not doing any other work for your company. Before driving the truck back, you take 10 consecutive hours of off-duty time. According to DOT regulations, you may count all of your travel time as off-duty time. Let's see if you remember the activities that represent on-duty, off-duty, and travel time. View the following activities and drag them to the category in which they fit.
Okay, so this is one of those interactive slides. Our options are on duty, off duty, and travel time. So if you know the answer, shout it out. Time where you are free from any work activities.
Off duty.
Time being transported but not driving.
Travel.
Driving time.
On duty.
Time when you can leave your vehicle parked.
On duty, I guess.
Where you can leave it parked and walk away.
Off duty, I don't know.
Okay.
Loading or not.
Okay, time finishing paperwork.
On duty.
Time traveling to a drug test.
On duty.
All right, nicely done.
During any given day, drivers are only allowed to drive a vehicle for up to 11 total hours within a 14-hour on-duty period, which can only begin after 10 consecutive hours of off-duty time. This 14-hour period does not extend based on any off-duty time you may take to comply with other hours of service rules we will cover later. Once you have driven a total of 11 hours, you have reached the driving limit and must be off-duty for another 10 consecutive hours before driving your truck again. Driving is not permitted if more than 8 hours have passed since the end of the driver's last off-duty period of at least 30 minutes. As an example, imagine you have had 10 consecutive hours off when you come to work at 6 a.m. You drive from 7 a.m. to 2 p.m., which is 7 hours. You take a 30-minute break and then drive for another 4 hours until 6:30 p.m. This meets your 11-hour limit, and you must not drive again until you have had at least 10 consecutive hours of off-duty time. You may do other work after 6:30 p.m., but you cannot drive a commercial motor vehicle on a public road again until after the off-duty time.
Does anybody have any questions about those hours of service rules or anything you want me to clarify?
So the clarification for me would be if I'm delivering a pump and then I install the pump and then I travel back, is that all included on the on-duty time?
Yes, that's all on duty time.
Well, that could be 12 to 14 hours for me.
Okay.
Did yesterday.
So installing it and the drive to and installing it took 14 hours.
You can figure if I go down to Rockaway Beach like yesterday, 4 hours there, 4 hours to install, monitor the thing, and 4 more hours to come back home. So that's 12 hours right there.
Okay, but you only drove for 8 of those hours, and
Exactly.
so you were fine.
But you also said if we're unloading or loading the truck, what does that represent?
That's on duty time.
That's what I'm saying.
Okay, so that would be a situation where you would need to call your supervisor and let them know that you're out of hours for the day and find out how we would proceed from there. There might be I'll look into the regulations a little bit more, Gary, and see what options there are for personal conveyance. That may be able to buy you a little bit more time. So if you're just going home, but I'll look into that and get back to you.
Okay, thank you.
Does anybody else have any questions? I also want to point out that the 30-minute break they're talking about, that regulation has changed. So now that 30-minute break can be on duty time. So you don't have to go off duty for those 30 minutes.
During any given day, drivers are only allowed to drive a vehicle for up to 11 total hours within a 14-hour on-duty period, which can only begin after 10 consecutive hours of off-duty time. This 14-hour period does not extend based on any off-duty time you may take to comply with other hours of service rules we will cover later. Once you have driven a total of 11 hours, you have reached the driving limit and must be off-duty for another 10 consecutive hours before driving your truck again. Driving is not permitted if more than 8 hours have passed since the end of the driver's last off-duty period of at least 30 minutes. As an example, imagine you have had 10 consecutive hours off when you come to work at 6 a.m.
We've already watched
You
that.
drive, your duty limit will be either 60 hours in a 7-day period or 70 hours in an 8-day period, depending on your company's hours of operation. Click on each image to view regulations for weekly hours of service rules for different companies.
All right, so companies that don't operate 7 days a week are in a 60-hour over 7 days rule, meaning that their drivers have 60 hours of on-duty time available to them in a 7-day period before they have to take a reset. Companies on the other side, companies that operate every day, have 70 hours in an 8-day period of on-duty time before they have to reset.
If more than 8 consecutive hours have passed since the last off-duty period of at least half an hour, a driver must take an off-duty break of at least 30 minutes before driving. Meal breaks or any other off-duty time of at least 30 minutes qualifies as a break. The break does count against the 14 hours, as allowing off-duty time to extend the workday would cause drivers to drive long past the time when fatigue becomes extreme. Because of this short break provision, drivers will be able to work 13.5 hours in the 14-hour period if they are driving after the 8th hour on duty.
Okay, again, this regulation changed, so this break can actually be spent on duty. Mostly the important thing is that you're not in your truck, you're not moving your truck in any way, shape, or form, that you're, just not driving for 30 minutes. And that 30-minute break has to be taken within 8 hours of the time you start your day.
Let's see if you remember the specific hours of service rules for on-duty and off-duty time each day and week. Drag each time to the appropriate description.
All right, so this is another interactive slide. Our options are maximum on-duty time when your company operates every day, maximum on-duty time when your company does not operate every day, maximum amount of driving time allowed daily, and on-duty time allowed before a 30-minute break is required. So the first one is 8 consecutive hours.
On-duty time allowed before 30-minute break is required.
60 hours over 70 days.
When your company doesn't operate every day.
70 hours over 8 days.
Operate every day, company.
11 hours out of 14 on-duty hours.
Maximum amount of driving time.
Nice job.
A sleeper berth is a compartment
skip
installed
this.
in a motor vehicle that is intended for rest, or the logbook is required for tracking hours of service whenever you are taking a trip of more than 100 air miles, or 115.08 miles on the map, or on duty more than 12 hours in one shift. Your company policy regarding tracking hours of service and use of logbooks may vary. Certain rules may apply to tractor-trailers and service trucks that cross state lines. Contact your supervisor for more specific information, or view the Hours of Service page at the link below. The time record must contain the driver's name, start time, end time, and all hours worked. Remember, you must start and end your shift within 14 consecutive hours and must have at least 10 hours off duty between shifts. Hours of service must be recorded on the driver's daily log, like the one shown here. You must log your total off-duty, sleeper berth, driving, and on-duty hours. Also log the total miles for the day and the states in which they were driven. This log records a trip from Richmond, Virginia to Boston, Massachusetts. Note that it's not required to fill out the from and to fields. Note how the driver has logged the miles traveled in Virginia, Maryland, New Jersey, and Connecticut. Make sure that all entries on your daily log are legible. To view more logging examples, click the link provided.
All right, do you guys want to see any additional logging examples before we continue? All right, so I just want to point out one of the things that I've seen a lot of violations for is when people are doing paper logs, they don't have this line on the grid all the way across. So your grid needs to be consecutive from midnight to 11:59. All of this information at the top that they were referencing and the items along the side are considered general form and manner, and that's one of the most frequent violations I've seen when it comes to hours of service.
Let's try a learning activity to see how well you understand logging requirements. Examine the driver's daily log. Note that the driver has exceeded the 14-hour rule. In addition, the driver has made some mistakes. Click to select the 4 errors on this log.
All right, so this is another interactive one. I will point out that the errors they're looking for have nothing to do with the grid or the information down here. So we're mostly looking for general form and manner mistakes.
Total miles driven.
Nice. All right, what else? 3 more.
Total hours totaled up on that bottom right
Yep,
office address.
nice. 1 more.
Legal signature.
Good job. You guys got that faster than any of the other groups. All right, so yes, just to clarify.
Electronic logging devices, or ELDs, are the latest form of onboard technology for hours of service and duty status tracking. ELDs synchronize with vehicle engine controls, automatically recording driving time, mileage, engine hours, location, and more.
We do have some trucks in our fleet that have ELDs. Those are out of our warehouse here in Lee Summit.
Drivers new to ELDs can expect familiarization training. Training topics include ELD use, including display or transfer of records to safety officials. This will show the daily header, graph grid showing driving duty status changes, and detailed daily log data. Training topics will also include methods to annotate and edit duty status, methods to certify entries, which are required at the end of each 24-hour period, and supporting documents. Supporting documents may include bills of lading, itineraries, schedules, or equivalent documents that show the starting and ending location for each trip, dispatch records, trip records, or equivalent documents, expense receipts, meals, lodging, fuel, etc., fleet management system communication records, and payroll records.
Hey, Steph.
So, yeah.
Jason Rector is asking if, as sales guys, they need to keep logbooks, paper logbooks.
No, we set all of you guys up with Keep Trucking. So you'll use Keep Trucking in place of those logbooks. But yes, we do want you to log when you go outside of the 150 air mile radius of your starting location for the day. Does that answer your question?
Yes.
Okay. And we'll go over the instructions for Keep Trucking after we finish this presentation.
ELDs simplify a previously burdensome manual process, but there are a few specific new requirements to be mindful of. Each supporting document must contain the following information: driver name or identification number. The vehicle unit number can also be used if that number can be linked to the driver. Date, location, including the name of the nearest city, town, or village, and time. The hours of service regulations changed to address the problem of driver fatigue, a major cause of traffic accidents. Some warning signs of fatigue are failure to remember the last few miles driven, wandering or disconnected thoughts, difficulty focusing, keeping your eyes open or keeping your head up, drifting from your lane, yawning repeatedly, tailgating or missing signs, and/or jerking your vehicle back into your lane. What can be done to help prevent drowsy driving? Adequate rest is the best way to prevent driver fatigue. Get a good night's sleep. Other ways to prevent drowsy driving are to drive with another driver. Schedule regular stops. Avoid alcohol or medications that impair performance. And seek medical help for a suspected sleep disorder. If you become drowsy while driving, recognize the warning signs of fatigue. Find a safe place to stop and take a brief nap or switch out with another driver. Annual inspections are another DOT requirement we must comply with. If your state's program is approved by DOT, you can use state inspection facilities for the required annual inspection. You are able to self-inspect if you meet minimum requirements, for example, using qualified brake inspectors. The completed inspection form or sticker must remain in or on the vehicle. Remember, all trailers must also be inspected.
We also want to make sure that you guys have your trucks inspected for the DOT regulations. If you haven't done that, please get with me or get with someone at the branches to help get that set up this week or next week. It's absolutely imperative that we have those records.
In addition to the required annual inspections, daily vehicle inspections must be performed before and after each trip. Fill out an inspection report and file it if any vehicle defects or deficiencies are found. Use the form shown or a similar form to conduct your inspection. All problems and safety concerns must be corrected immediately. Check the brakes, steering, tires, and emergency equipment, among other things. See FMCSA Section 396.11 for a more complete list of what to inspect. You must also ensure the load is properly secured as part of the pre-trip inspection. If the machine being hauled weighs more than 10,000 pounds, you need a minimum of 4 tie-downs. Attachments, booms, blades, and buckets must be completely lowered and secured. Make sure that the load does not exceed the limits of the chains and straps being used to secure it. The aggregate working load limit must be at least half the weight of the load. Make sure that the service body area on all field service trucks is free from debris and use a tarp to secure any materials.
The pre-trip inspection process is actually automated through Keep Trucking, so you won't have to have the DVIR books, but they are also a DOT requirement that you do your pre-trip inspections every day.
The following safety equipment is required on all vehicles. A fire extinguisher rated at least 5 BC or 10 BC if the vehicle is transporting hazardous materials. 3 DOT-approved triangles or 6 30-minute flares, and spare fuses or circuit breakers. In addition, a first aid kit is highly recommended. You should also be aware that some states issue citations for surge brakes on trailers.
We will also want to make sure that you guys do an inventory of your truck today. If you don't have fire extinguishers or the triangles, please let us know so we can work on getting those ordered for you.
Stephanie,
Yes.
now that equipment, would that would be anything over the 10,001 GVWR rating. Is that correct?
Correct. Or if you are in a combination of a truck and a trailer that exceed the 10,000 GVWR.
Okay. So, I mean, I think today are mostly sales guys. Most of them drive like 3/4 ton pickups.
Right. Some of the newer 3/4 ton trucks that are being issued are 10,001 GVWR or better. So they are classified as commercial motor vehicles.
And where do we find that? Do we have to look on our registration on our truck or something like that to find out if it is the 10,001?
It'll be in a sticker on your door. The reason that you guys were invited to this safety training is because we already know that your trucks are classified as commercial motor vehicles based on that weight rating.
Okay.
As the driver, you are ultimately responsible for complying with the federal and state requirements that the vehicle being driven is in a safe operating condition. Carefully inspect the vehicle and report on its condition as you are required to. Do this on a daily basis using the form provided. During a trip, you should monitor the condition of vehicle components that may affect the safety of the vehicle. If something seems to be wrong with the vehicle, stop and check it out. Do not continue with the trip until you are satisfied it is safe to do so. DOT requirements for drug and alcohol testing apply to drivers of vehicles over 26,000 gross vehicle weight rating only.
So this is basically just saying that the DOT drug and alcohol testing for commercial drivers applies to CDL holders.
The Pipeline and Hazardous Materials Safety Administration, or PHMSA, also has requirements that apply to drivers transporting hazardous materials. Drug and alcohol testing can occur during pre-hire screening, at random, post-accident, or it can be based on a reasonable suspicion. DOT requires employers to have documented training for employees who are subject to the rules. Supervisors are to be trained and documented as well. PHMSA requires tests based on reasonable suspicion and post-accident. PHMSA also requires random drug testing for drivers transporting hazardous materials. All employers are required to complete and maintain testing summaries. A more stringent company policy is also acceptable.
I will also add here that JCI's policy is that anytime you are involved in a motor vehicle crash with JCI property involved, we will send you for a post-accident non-DOT drug screen.
DOT regulates the transportation of hazardous materials, or hazmat. Registration is required if you are shipping or offering a shipment requiring a placard. Employers are also required to train all employees who handle hazmat in commerce. Anyone who ships hazardous materials must be able to determine when a material meets the definition of a hazardous material. If it does, there are a number of rules regarding the marking and labeling of hazardous materials, the use of placards, and in addition, employees handling hazardous materials. Drivers need to report safety concerns to their employers. Employers will then work with drivers to resolve the issues. Fortunately, most concerns can be resolved when drivers and their employers work together. Drivers, mechanics, freight handlers, and others who play a part in commercial motor vehicle safety or security can contact the Department of Transportation regarding possible violations of commercial vehicle safety regulations. To reach DOT, call the number you see here. DOT will respond immediately, though be aware that some concerns may take up to 90 days to reach a resolution. Drivers are fully protected by law against being discharged, disciplined, or discriminated against regarding compensation, terms, or privileges of employment because of filing a report. In other words, it is illegal for companies to retaliate against employees for voicing safety concerns or for refusing to perform work that is unsafe or that violates safety regulations. To qualify for whistleblower protection, employees must have alerted their employer to the hazardous safety or security condition. Employees must have asked for and been unable to obtain a resolution to the issue. Retaliations that employees are protected from include termination, demotion, pay cut, threats, reprimands, and denials of overtime. Employees have 180 days to report retaliation under the whistleblower provisions of the Surface Transportation Assistance Act. If the evidence proves that retaliation occurred, the federal government may order the employer to reinstate the worker, pay lost wages, restore benefits, and provide other relief. For more information, visit this website or call OSHA. DOT auditors review a number of documents. They will include a listing of regulated vehicles and drivers, along with the associated qualification files, drug and alcohol testing summaries, the reportable accident register, hours of service records, training records for hazmat and drug and alcohol program, daily inspection reports showing vehicle defects or deficiencies, hazmat shipping documents, annual inspection records, and routine maintenance records.
All right, I want to just point out that anytime you guys are out on the road and you're pulled into an inspection, depending on what is found in violation, it could put us on DOT's radar, which could lead to an audit of any of these items. If you are issued a citation, that sticks with you as a commercial driver for 3 years. That violation stays with JCI for 2 years. It will affect our safety ratings. It could affect our ability to work with certain customers. I know it's a lot of information, but it's really important information for the vitality of JCI. With that, I am going to switch over. Well, really quick, does anybody have any questions before I move over to the next part? All right, so now I'm going to move.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So, and I'm just thinking out loud here. If we get pulled over for a random inspection by a motor carrier officer on the side of the road, and they find that, say I don't have a fire extinguisher and a first aid kit or whatever, and we're written a citation, who's responsible for that citation?
I think it would be handled on a case-by-case basis. If it's something that JCI is negligent for, then I'm assuming that's something that the company would handle. If it is something as the driver that you haven't done properly, then that would likely be passed on to you. Luckily, knock on wood, in my 1.5 years here, we haven't received a fine for any of our violations.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Now, I do have, for each of you, I'm working on some folders that will have your DOT medical card, the insurance card for your vehicle, as well as some instructions on Keep Truckin', including how to share your logs with an officer if you're stopped. It also includes this. You probably can't see it very well, but this is a flyer on instructions for what to do if you're ever stopped by law enforcement or pulled into a DOT inspection, or what to do in the event of a motor vehicle crash. The important thing to remember if you're ever pulled into an inspection is to just be courteous, be polite to the officer, do whatever the officer is asking of you. Don't get out of your truck unless he asks you to. if you receive a violation, make sure you send those forms back to me by the end of the next business day. A lot of those have to be signed and returned to the policing agency that issued the violation, and they do have deadlines. So any documents you receive from a law enforcement or a DOT agent need to come back to me as soon as possible. All right, I'm going to switch over to our next presentation, and I promise I'm almost done with you guys.
Real quickly, Stephanie, before we move on, Billy, to answer one of your questions there on supplying like a fire extinguisher, if there's anything you guys need for your trucks, that's one of the reasons we're asking you to do that inventory to see if you need flares or triangles or whatever you need to make sure that your vehicle is compliant. If you're not able to get that supply through your branch, let us know immediately, and we can get that stuff for you.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Hey, Keith, just a heads up, most of us that just got the new 3/4 ton trucks have nothing.
Yeah, we figured.
Okay.
Like they hand you keys and a truck and a license plate, and that's what you get.
Yeah.
Do you have that from your previous vehicles?
No, we had half tons. We had nothing in them.
Okay. All right. So yeah, just make sure you please get that information to us as soon as possible so we can deal with that as soon as possible.
Yeah. Do you know, Jason, did those new trucks come with DOT inspections already completed?
No.
Okay. So yeah, we'll need to get those done too.
Any idea where we go get those done at?
Let's go ahead.
Because Arkansas doesn't require passenger car inspections. There's no safety inspections for a passenger car anymore. So there's no inspection station.
Okay. Let's talk to Randy and find out where they go get their DOT inspections done for the trucks.
He's in Missouri.
Huh?
He's in Missouri.
Well, I know, but he would know where the Rogers guys go to get theirs done.
So just so you know, I'm the only person with a truck tagged in Arkansas and all of JCI. All of the other tags are in Missouri.
Okay, well then I will look into that for you.
Yeah. So
he
would just take it to Missouri. So yeah.
Okay, yeah, I'll look into that and see what I can find for you.
Thanks.
All right, so we are going to start with this. Again, these instructions will be in the folders that I'll send to you. I'm waiting to send them out until everyone sends me their DOT physicals. So if you don't have one of those on file, please get that to me as soon as possible. And Keep Trucking is an application that allows us to make sure we are staying within our provided exemptions. As short haul drivers, most of us fall under the 150 air mile rule, which means that you don't have to log until you go out of those parameters, which is about 172.6 driving miles. So basically, if you take your starting location and go draw a big circle around it, you can go 172 driving miles within that circle before you have to log it. The second you go out of that circle is when you have to begin logging your starts and your stops for the day. If you go outside of that radius more than 8 times in a rolling 30-day period, then your truck would be required to have an electronic logging device. So we wanted to get everyone, all of our commercial drivers, on Keep Trucking so we can make sure that we are staying within those parameters. This first screen is what I see when I log in to, This is what I see when I log in to Keep Trucking every day. I can see where my drivers are. I can see who's on duty and who's not on duty. This is the screen you get when you log in. You can go to your privacy setting on your phone and set it to run while you have the app open, and it will automatically report your location back to the dashboard. It'll do it in 15-minute increments. And the screen also shows you all of the logs you've had for the last 14 days. Before you begin your trip, you have to do a pre-trip inspection. So you'll do that by touching the grid here, and then inspection, and then the plus sign in the bottom right-hand screen. On this screen, you'll enter your vehicle information. You only have to do it once. After that, it will save it for you. So then the next day, you would just go in and click on the vehicle you have saved. So then you select the type of inspection you'll be performing and go up here to add or remove vehicle defects. If you don't have any defects on this screen, then you just have to sign it and save it. If you do find a defect, it'll pull you up to this screen where it lists all of the things that you'll need to check. Once you select on a defect, it'll open up this little window where you can list the defect type, you can enter notes and take pictures. If you're satisfied with the vehicle condition, you just select sign and it'll bring up this screen where you can sign, with your finger. It has to be your legal signature, and then hit sign inspection report. After you've signed once, the app will save your signature so that every day once you hit sign, you just have to click the save button after it's imported your signature. These do have to be completed before every move, so we know that you're doing your vehicle inspections. When you are ready to change your duty status for the day, you're gonna go back to your log, click on your grid, and then click on the plus symbol here. It'll bring up this screen to change your duty status, and you'll do change your current duty status, which then brings you to this screen where you can add a location and notes. For example, say you've gone outside of the 150 air miles and you stop for gas. You're going to want to change your status from driving to on duty. Make sure that it marks the right location, and you can just put notes, stopped for gas. You do the same thing if you're stopped for a DOT inspection, or if you've stopped at a specific customer location. Just make sure you notate that. And then once you are done with the day, you just need to sign your log. You do it the same way by clicking sign. It'll bring you up to this screen and you sign it with your finger. Again, once you do it once, it will save your signature for you. So you do need to go in each day and sign your logs. If you haven't worked, just go in and select the days and then add signatures. You can select multiple days at once from that main screen of the app. If you're working and not driving, you can just you can edit the log to include your on-duty status. All right, so if you're pulled into an inspection, you'll need to know how to provide the officer with your logs. So you just click on these three arrows right here to bring up this screen. You'll select DOT inspection mode, and then the officer will tell you how he wants you to submit the logs. You can either click begin inspection and then hand the officer your phone, or you can send him the logs to the email address he provides. This next picture is what your full log will look like. This is also what I see when I go in and audit the logs. Just some important notes. You only need to complete logs if you're going outside the 150 air miles from your home branch. I know a lot of you guys, your home base is your home, so that's kind of the same thing. If you're starting and ending your day at home, then it's 150 air miles from that location. If you're staying within those air miles, just open the app and change your status to on duty and leave the app open so we can see that you're staying within those miles. As soon as you know you're going outside of those limits, you are required to log that trip and abide by all hours of service regulations. Don't forget you have to perform and log your pre-trip inspection daily, whether you're going outside of those air miles or not. Make sure you sign this every day. This serves as quote unquote time card, which is permissible for local drivers in lieu of daily logs. You're also welcome to fully log your trips every day, noting your stops and your breaks if you'd prefer. The regulations don't prohibit us from going above and beyond.
So I have a question, Stephanie.
Yeah.
So kind of because of the way some of us, the sales guys work, we may have started our day at 6 in the morning within that 150 air miles or whatever, not going too far. And then, I have customers that are 5+ hours away. If I have to drop what I'm doing and go 5+ hours away, what happens when I exceed my hours of operation for that day?
Right. That's a good question. I'm going to do some research on personal conveyance and get back to you on that. I'm sorry, I wish I had that answer, but there's some personal conveyance regulations that may apply here.
Stephanie?
Yeah.
Who do we need to talk to trade in our 3/4 tons in for a 1/2 ton pickup?
I'm not sure.
If you could find out, please.
Probably your supervisor, I'm guessing.
Okay, thank you.
All right, do you guys have any other questions?
If we are working from home on our home office day, are we still required to log on duty?
No, I would just keep, if you're not driving, I wouldn't worry about that. We'll just I would only use it on the days that you're driving so that we can make sure you're staying in those parameters. Any other questions? All right, well, thank you guys.
Hang on, I got a question.
Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't realize that I was on mute. Hey, is there any indication that they're going to start logoing and placarding our trucks then?
Actually, yes, we are working on getting some magnetized placards for you guys. I think Randy Crow down in Joplin is getting that taken care of. So it'll just have the JCI logo and our DOT number.
Okay.
So they're completely removable, so you don't have to, have them on everywhere you go.
Do you have to have that DOT number on there and the company logo?
Yeah, it will.
But do you have to per DOT?
Per DOT, you have to have the DOT number.
Okay. So so for all the sales guys that are on here, I'm going to tell you something that I used to do back in the day when I was, trying to get some business going and I was going after competition. And I just wait for them guys to come out from Lee Matthews or Coleman Brown, look for their logos. If I didn't have anything going on for the day, I just went and followed them around. So just something to keep in mind, fellas.
So now my question is, when would we be required to put the DOT and JCI placard on our truck?
Whenever you're driving for company business.
What about my Ford that's not, I don't think the magnets will stick to it.
Okay. That's something that we're still discussing. In the drive-away business, the guys would just put them on with painter's tape, but I know that that is not a look that would be aesthetically pleasing for you guys. You may try it. The regulation just says that it has to be on both sides of the vehicle. It doesn't say how it has to be adhered. I've seen guys put them in their windshields or in their windows. It has to be visible from 50 feet away. The DOT number has to be visible from 50 feet away.
Okay, thank you.
Uh-huh.
Thanks, guys.
All right, thank you guys. I'll get these folders out to you as soon as I can.
If you have any other questions, just feel free to reach back out to us.
Yes, please.